Hi, today is release day for my third book, The Way of Beauty. I'm author Camille DeMaio. I write historical fiction, and I've started to get a lot of questions about my inspiration for The Way of Beauty, so I thought I'd answer them all on a YouTube video like this. My ideas for books often come from location. I love to travel and I love writing description, and this book was no different. My first image, as I was brainstorming with my daughter one day, was the idea of a soldier kissing his girlfriend goodbye in a train station. And I knew I wanted to set a book in New York City, which is maybe my favorite city in the world. And so I started researching train stations in New York. And the first one I put into a search engine was Penn Station. And I started to see these beautiful, beautiful pictures of that train station. It's cathedral-like glass ceiling. It was just stunning. And I've been through Penn Station many times. So my first thought was, I just must not have gone upstairs because I've never seen that. But what I discovered is that the Penn Station in these beautiful historic pictures was actually torn down in the 1960s to build Madison Square Garden. But as I learned of the history of the station, how the president of the Pennsylvania Railroad pioneered putting tunnels under the East Rivers and the Hudson Rivers. The sand hogs were the men and the immigrants who dug those tunnels and the hardships that they had, to the building of this magnificent place that was bigger and better than anything that had been in London or Paris. The heyday that it happened, that the station lived through in the 1930s, the 1940s. But then as the late 1950s came about, there was so much air travel and car travel that train was just not as big a deal, and the railroads were in trouble. So the building was sold to the Madison Square Garden Corporation and actually torn down. Now, once it was gone, the people of New York realized the treasure that they had lost, and they went on to start preservation societies. Grand Central Station, which we know and love is this beautiful place today, was on the chopping block. And so Penn Station's loss actually saved not only Grand Central Station, but about 700 other buildings just in New York City alone. And it sparked nationwide interest in architectural preservation. But I do like to write about characters too. This was not merely going to be a story about a train station. That was just the inspiration. I thought, though, about all the people that would have passed through its halls, all the people who would have dug its tunnels, from the wealthiest of the wealthy to the poorest of the poor and everybody in between. So I wrote the story of three women whose lives paralleled that building, that heyday, and the destruction of Penn Station. So that's where the inspiration comes from. One of my characters early on is Pearl Pilkington, who is an ardent suffragist. I loved researching 100 years later the women who sacrificed so much to give us the right to vote. We still have a long way to go, but really we have to look back and just say thank you to all the people who've gone before us. Not only the women who've given us the right to vote, but the people who've died on battlefields for the right to vote. And that was an important thing that I wanted to bring through in this book, those kind of sacrifices made through there. We have the character of Vera, who's the daughter of one of the immigrants who did dig those tunnels, and now he's dealing with significant health issues because of it. And Vera is finding her own place in the world when she does meet Pearl. I also have Angelo. He's an Italian immigrant who runs a newspaper stand outside of Penn Station, and I just loved writing him. His last name is Bellavia, which actually means beautiful way, so there's a little play on words there intentionally. And then I move into the second era, really the heyday of the train travel, which was happening during World War II. And I have characters like William and Alice and Emmett, who Emmett has some mysteries behind him. You'll have to see who Emmett really is. Alice, who falls in love with him. Alice is the recipient, the generation of women who did now have the right to vote. What are they doing with it? How are they taking advantage of their opportunities? And William, I won't give away too much about William without a spoiler there. And so these are 6 characters who have lived in and around Penn Station, paralleling that heyday, that destruction later on of the train station, but how their lives endured, how their lives changed through even as the skyline of New York changed as well. So this book was just a joy to write. It was in my head for years before I put it on paper, and so I'm so excited for release day today, and I'm excited to share it with you. Feel free to ask me any more questions. Those are just some of the most common ones that have come through, and I look forward to sharing more with you. Thank you.